I'm Riley Reynolds. You all know Jason Gunderson and I here are tonight with David Worley, running for state senate. And as promised last week when we came in here with James Lamborn, we wanted to get David in and let you hear a little bit about him. From my perspective, Guthrie, as we watch the shenanigans that are at play in all of this, we have to have a conservative. Now, every brochure that you see in the mail, and you're probably getting 2 or 3 a day like I am, touts Guthrie as a conservative, as a protector of the values of Idaho. And it couldn't be farther from the truth if you look at his voting record and his behavior in the Senate right now. So as we kind of introduce and kind of walk through some of these things, I want to point out a few things to the voters that are out there looking at this. David Guthrie right now has a war chest of over $130,000. David Worley, I think, has what, $30,000?
I know we're about 50 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So David's catching up. It's a little David and Goliath or a David and Guthrie episode, in my opinion. But we want a conservative with fiscal responsibility and Idaho values truly at the helm to represent us here in District 28. So for all of you in Rockland, all of you in American Falls, Pocatello, here in Franklin and Downey, we've got to wake up to the fact that Guthrie is no conservative nor a friend to the people of Idaho. So today I wanted to just talk about a few things and let David kind of explain what he's on without doing any more of that. So with that, David, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, and tell us what you're running for.
Yeah, sure. So I was born here actually in southeast Idaho, so born and raised in Pocatello. Just a little bit of my background. So right out of high school, I joined the Idaho Army National Guard. Did a deployment to Iraq in 04-05, that big one where they kind of sent the whole brigade out there. And, came back from my deployment, served as a missionary for my church for a couple of years. Actually went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And one of the interesting things about my mission was I got to see what it's like when Democrats control a territory for a long period of time up close. And I learned that Democrat policies don't just destroy the economy, they don't just destroy, kind of the physical environment of a place, but they actually destroy people's souls. And just the unchecked welfare state, the soft on crime policies, and it's really devastating stuff. Then I came back home and actually ended up going back out to live in Virginia, finished college out there. My wife and I got married, and we lived in Virginia for a few years, almost 10 years about. And while we were out there, we saw Virginia do this transition. We were a solid red state to a purple state, and then started to become a blue state. And we decided, we need to get back home. We want to go back to, deep red Idaho, raise our children in a place where we're confident they're going to be free and prosperous. Well, we get back here and we see a lot of the same trends that happened in Virginia. So one thing that I've concluded as I've seen this process happen is that what leads to Democrats taking control is always weak Republicans who will not fight for the platform, won't keep their promises, and eventually they demoralize Republicans to the point where the Democrats start to get an in and gain control. And I think that's some of what we're seeing, unfortunately, here in our state. That's why I want to run, is because I want to make sure that we have conservative leadership that represents the values of our district and the values of our state, and ensures that we never become the next Colorado.
Okay. We're all wanting the same thing because we all see it too. And even here in our own little county, we've got some wolves in sheep's clothing. At our county level, we've got lots of stories of shenanigans behind the scenes where some of the people that are supposed to be safeguarding our Republican values are safeguarding the Democrat values more. And it's kind of disgusting as we watch these people that should be doing so much better. And Todd, you know who I'm talking about. And so I want this county to understand you can vote for Guthrie if you want status quo and debt. If you want no moral values and nobody and the spending to keep on spending, go for Guthrie. If you want some conservative values, some constitutional leadership, we've got to go for David Worley. We've got to be no longer the sunshine patriot nor the church of the lukewarm. We've got to choose a side, people. And this line right now between David Worley and Guthrie is as great as the national situation is between Democrats and Republicans. It is a massive divide in their ideologies. And tell me a little bit about Guthrie and his.
Yeah, so I think it's important to put this contrast and kind of quantify it a bit. So one of the things that I think we've seen Guthrie drift over the years, but I mean, he actually has consistent voting record on some of these issues that is just surprising for a Republican. Like you said, everyone who runs as a Republican in Idaho says conservative, 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 because they know that's what the people want to hear. But let's look at some of the voting record. So we go all the way back to 2020. Jim Guthrie is one of only a handful of people in the Senate who voted against the bill to keep men out of women's sports. You fast forward to this last legislative session, he votes against what's called the bathroom bill, which in reality what the bathroom bill is it's a common sense measure, common sense law to keep men out of women's private spaces, not letting men go into women's restrooms, not letting men go into women's locker rooms and changing rooms. That bill was just an attempt to reclaim a small portion of the moral social order we once had. Jim Guthrie was the only Senate Republican to vote against it. And this is the contrast we're talking about. You go to another bill this last session, similar type of issue. He voted against the bill that prohibited teachers and school counselors from socially transitioning children into transgenderism without telling their parents. That is a bare minimum restriction. In reality, that ideology needs to be banned entirely. It's child abuse, needs to be kept away from children at all. But the idea that a teacher or a counselor could socially transition your child without telling you, that is completely unacceptable. And he voted against that bill. Again, only one of two Republicans who voted against the bill. And these votes show that there is a disconnect between what Jim Guthrie thinks is morally acceptable and the values of the voters. You know, I know that most people in our county want to protect the family as the fundamental unit of society. And they understand that family values are the foundation of our community. And we have to get the government out of the business of promoting sexual immorality. And he's just shown over and over again that he is more willing to side with liberal positions on these issues than actually reflect conservative Republicans.
So I want to reach out to Bulldog Nation, Preston Indians, all you people in Marsh Valley. You guys are all sports fanatics. Do you want guys in your girls' bathrooms? Do you want men in your girls' sports? Because that's what Jim Guthrie was willing to vote against, so that he could allow that to happen. So he voted no to allow that to not block throughout this legislative season. If you want a person like that endangering your children or your wife, shame on you, because that's not who I am. And I don't want any man in my wife's bathroom or my daughter's bathrooms. And I don't want men in
changing
sports.
rooms and locker rooms.
Yeah,
I mean, it's completely unacceptable. I have a wife and I have 3 daughters. And again, this is just a common sense prohibition that should have had 100% Republican support.
100%. Okay. Well, that was a big one. That's a heavy one. That right there pisses me off to no end. Now, we know with this war chest, you were going to have a debate tomorrow, I think, or the next day.
So yeah, we were supposed to have a debate this week and on the Neil Larson show, and my opponent backed out. And I think that this again goes back to a complete difference in our governing philosophy. So I am not afraid of public scrutiny. I have done interview after interview here, other podcasts I've answered, pretty much every single questionnaire I've been sent in, everything I have time for. I want the public to have full access to what I think and what I believe so they can make an educated choice. Whereas my opponent has a history of not wanting to actually discuss his voting record. Because I think that a lot of liberal Republicans know that in reality, they do not represent their districts well. And that if the people knew how they voted on the critical issues of the day, whether it be illegal immigration, spending, taxation, pushing back against the LGBTQ agenda, Second Amendment, if they knew how they voted on these issues, they wouldn't vote for them on election day. So I think that this is, again, another indication of a difference between us, where one of us is willing to go into the arena, let the people hear the arguments, and make a decision. And unfortunately, my opponent isn't willing to do that.
So, Jason, you got in your hand a couple of these flyers that I just got today. I get 2 or 3 of these a day from Guthrie.
Yep.
And this one is so full of lies. You know, he just, Guthrie is not afraid to lie. He's not afraid to skip town and avoid confrontation, or at least an interview. It was the Niels Larson show.
Neil Larson show.
Neil
Yep.
Larson show you were on the other morning. I listened to that, and they're talking about it on the radio. In fact, they just had a person from Rockland called me that said Guthrie backed out.
Yep.
So again, people, come on, wake up, Idaho. This is real time. This is time to get off the fence and open your eyes and read what the candidates are doing and willing to do to us, and against us, not for us. So yeah, this is these things every day. How much money are they spending on this stuff? Billboards, bench seats. You see the Three Stooges on every bench in American Falls. Guthrie, Cheat'em, and Garner. I can't believe. I mean, I don't know how much money. And Garner's running unopposed, and yet he's got his face out on every big billboard he can get it on. These guys are dropping money.
If I could address these flyers, because they all have about the same theme. They talk about Guthrie as if he's, this reliable guy on tax relief, protecting your water rights, all these different things. And we could argue into the eaches on how exactly true some of those statements are, but I think the broader message they're trying to convey is that the voter has to choose between his economic interests, between his wallet, and his values. And that's just simply not the case. So I believe that we need to protect the water rights of our people, that we need to protect Idaho water, make sure it's used for Idaho. I think that there are some government uses of funds that are completely legitimate. We need water aquifer recharge projects. Those things are necessary. Water's the lifeblood of our state. Completely understand that. Property taxes, I want to see them reduced or even potentially eliminated and replaced with other taxation. So when it comes to the bread and butter issues, I'm a full-throated conservative. I want to reduce our taxes. I want to get the government off our people's backs so that we can be a more prosperous people. So this is a false choice. I will represent our district on both fronts. I will fight for the economic interest of our district, and I will defend our values. Voters do not have to choose between the two. That's a false choice that the liberal Republicans are trying to force on the voters. We can have a senator that does both, and that is my commitment to District 28.
You heard it. It's coming out of his mouth. Southeastern Idaho, we don't want to be Boise. We don't want any part of Boise, but that's what Guthrie wants. Guthrie wants everybody to be like Boise. So does Cheat'em, so does Garner. And we've got to get these men out of office and out of representation for us. Please think about this on May 19th, because that's the primary and this is the go time. You've got to stop being members of the Church of the Lukewarm and rise up here, people. Anything else you want to say to rattle the cage here a little bit?
No, I just want to remind everybody, at the end of the day, Christless conservatism will not succeed. Our Constitution and our system of government, like John Adams said, was made for a moral and religious people. And if we're going to restore that in our country, that means we as the citizens have to wake up, we have to vote, we have to get active, and we also have to, again, call upon our government to do what it says in the Idaho Constitution, to promote not just the interests of the state, but to promote the prime interest, which is morality and virtue in the people. And that's the only way that we're going to get ourselves out of the situation that we're in, both economically and also culturally.
Okay. Jason, I know you're the eye candy of the show. Do you got anything you want to say? Nope. He's good to go. Jason's heard it all. Anything else you want to let the people know?
Just remember, early voting is going on now, so if you can't make it on May 19th, be sure to vote early, and don't miss the election. Make a plan, get with your friends and family, spread the word. And thanks for having me on the show.
Hey, absolutely. And if you've already early voted for Guthrie, go stick your head in the toilet bowl. And that's what I would say, because it's disgusting. and it's just a lack of common sense and a lack of understanding of what the topics are really about. Anyway, we appreciate you coming all the way down here to Little Preston and representing us and giving it a go. We're
Happy to do it. Franklin County is a beautiful county.
we are the best in Idaho. We just don't know it because nobody recognizes us down here. So, thank you everybody for listening, and go vote May 19th for David Worley, State Senate. No Guthrie, no Cheat'em, no Garner, and another one, no Brower for judge. Thank you everybody. Have a good